Brendan Rodgers has left Liverpool. Brendan Rodgers is no longer the Liverpool manager.
Jurgen Klopp, I'm sure, is going to be the guy that they're going to talk about to come.
He's the favourite at the moment, Jurgen Klopp.
If it was me, I would go for Klopp ahead of Ancelotti. I think he's got more to prove. I think Liverpool is not an easy job now.
Maybe, and somebody asked me, I will come to England.
On the 8th of October 2015, Jurgen Klopp would be appointed Liverpool manager. He was coming into a city that hadn't seen their team win the league title for over 20 years. His first mission was simple: make the city believe again.
LFC. You have to change from doubter to believer. And when I sit here in 4 years, I think we won one title in this time. I'm pretty sure.
Having knocked Bayern Munich off their perch in German football, with back-to-back league titles with Borussia Dortmund, Klopp was eager to implement his infamous gegenpress into English football, referring to the tactic as heavy metal football. When he took over from Brendan Rodgers, they sat 10th in the league table on 12 points, with only 3 wins to their name. As shown by their league position, Liverpool weren't blessed with some of the footballing ability they have in their ranks today. Jurgen's first game was away to Tottenham, and looking at the first Liverpool 11 he named, it is clear to see he had a massive job on his hands if he was going to get Liverpool back to the top. Although the match ended 0-0, Klopp's gegenpressing ideology was already beginning to show. In the match, Liverpool covered more ground than in any of their previous games, and became the first team to outrun Mauricio Pochettino's side all season, who were renowned for outworking their opponents at the time. Although Liverpool ultimately fell flat in the league by finishing in 8th place and missed out on European football, Klopp had managed impressive victories over the likes of Chelsea and Man City.
Well, the best word I can say, but will describe this, was boom.
And had began rekindling the broken connection between the fans and the players. However, Liverpool weren't only competing in the Premier League. Within 5 months on Merseyside, Klopp had reached his first final in English football, as he beat the likes of Stoke and Southampton, en route to the League Cup final, where they played against Man City. Unfortunately for Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, after a tightly contested final, they would lose on penalties as Willy Caballero managed to make 3 decisive saves that saw the trophy return to Manchester. 3 months later, Klopp would have another opportunity to lift his first trophy, as he guided Liverpool to their first European final since 2007 in the Europa League. After beating bitter rivals Manchester United in the quarter-finals, Jurgen was up against his old club Borussia Dortmund in the semi-finals. After nothing could separate the two at the Signal Iduna Park, Klopp would experience his first historic European night at Anfield. Within the first hour of the match, Liverpool found themselves 3-1 down on the night after goals from Mkhitaryan, Aubameyang and Royce. They looked destined to be heading out of the competition. But 2 goals in 10 minutes from Coutinho and Sakho kept them in with a chance. In the 91st minute, Anfield erupted, as Dejan Lovren headed home from a James Milner cross, completing one of many historic Anfield European comebacks. After knocking out the favourites for the competition, Sevilla was the last team standing between Klopp and his first trophy for Liverpool. Daniel Sturridge opened the scoring with a beautiful outside-the-foot effort just before the teams went in for halftime. However, Liverpool capitulated in the second half, with Kevin Gamero scoring within the first minute as Sevilla went on to beat Liverpool 3-1, meaning Klopp had lost his first 2 finals as Liverpool boss, a habit he would want to get rid of.
And will we come back stronger? That's for sure.
After vowing to bounce back, Klopp was heading into his first transfer window as Liverpool boss and began creating the team he needed. His first major signing at the club was Sadio Mane, who he signed from Southampton. Sadio was a pacey, exciting winger with bags of potential, but more importantly for Klopp, he had the work rate to match his ability. Along with Sadio, Wijnaldum joined from Newcastle, and Joel Matip joined from Schalke, adding much-needed quality to the spine of Liverpool's team. After cashing in on a lot of the dead wood at the club, Klopp was ready to enter his first full season as Liverpool manager. With no European football, the objective for the season was simple: get Liverpool back into the Champions League. The season started off with a bang. After a very impressive opening day victory against Arsenal, Liverpool looked like a completely different side to the one 12 months ago when Klopp took over. By the end of December, they sat second in the league behind Chelsea and looked like the only team that could challenge them for the title. However, Liverpool's form would quickly fall away. 2 disappointing cup exits and notable losses against teams at the bottom half of the table saw Klopp's men at risk of losing all their hard work from earlier in the season, with Arsenal breathing down their necks for the final Champions League spot. Luckily for Klopp, his team got out of the rut and managed to clinch 4th spot on the last day of the season with a victory over Middlesbrough. The signature of Sadio was crucial to the success of the season, as he ended the year as the club's top goalscorer as well as the Player of the Year. Liverpool were now back where they belonged, competing in Europe's biggest competition against the biggest teams in the world. In the summer transfer window, Liverpool would find the missing piece to their attack as they signed Mohamed Salah from Roma. After failing to impress at Chelsea, Salah was returning to England eager to prove himself after lighting up the Serie A. Mane would move over to the left as one of the Premier League's most formidable attacks was born. Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mohamed Salah. The three of them instantly clicked, all getting on the score sheet in the opening game of the season, away to Watford. Klopp had created arguably the best attack in world football, capable of beating any team on their day, bulldozing their way through most defenses they came up against. Despite Mo Salah having a record-breaking debut season, the club seemed to be stagnating. Whilst they had the best attack in the league, their backline was still very fragile, and because of this, they suffered early exits from both domestic cups and couldn't keep up with Pep's Manchester City in the league. So, when Coutinho made his dream move to Barcelona in the January transfer window, Klopp opted to spend the money on the best defender available, breaking the transfer record for the most expensive defender ever as the club signed Virgil van Dijk. Like Mo Salah, Virgil's impact was immediate, scoring a winner on his debut in the Merseyside derby. The improvement in Liverpool's defense wasn't enough to see them rise up the table, as they finished the season with another fourth-placed finish. However, the improvement translated well in Europe. After going unbeaten in the group stage, by the time the knockout stages rolled around, they now had Van Dijk to get them over the line in games. After demolishing Porto 5-0 away from home, they had set up a quarter-final against English rivals Manchester City. At the time, Liverpool were the only team to have beaten City in the Premier League after a chaotic 4-3 win at Anfield. Unfortunately for Manchester City, under the lights at Anfield, history repeated itself. In the first leg, Liverpool blew them out the water, winning the game 3-0, all but securing their qualification to the semi-finals, and after a resolute performance at the Etihad, Klopp had made it to the semi-finals, where Mo Salah was reunited with his former club Roma. The iconic front three showed no mercy as they all got on the score sheet as Liverpool raced into a 5-goal lead. Despite Roma's best efforts across both legs, this was enough to see Klopp through to his third final at Liverpool and his second-ever Champions League final. All that stood in their way was Champions League royalty. Real Madrid led by Cristiano Ronaldo. Liverpool were finally back in the final of their favorite competition. Klopp had the city believing once again. The fan base was full of optimism and song ahead of their final. Then disaster struck. Liverpool's star man had left the pitch in tears after a reckless challenge from Sergio Ramos. Then in the second half, Karius had the worst half in Champions League history that ultimately saw his Liverpool career destroyed. His mistakes, along with Gareth Bale scoring one of the best goals ever in a final, saw Liverpool lose another final under Klopp. For the first time in his career at Liverpool, serious questions were being asked of Klopp. In his last 7 finals across Liverpool and Dortmund, he had only managed to win one of them. Was Jurgen Klopp the man to bring trophies back to Merseyside?
We're bringing back to Liverpool.
Knowing it was now or never, Liverpool invested heavily into the following transfer window, signing the likes of Keita, Fabinho, and Shaqiri before making Alisson the most expensive goalkeeper at the time. Klopp needed stability. The arrivals of Fabinho and Alisson mixed with the emergence of fullbacks Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold on either flank provided his team the base to win matches. Klopp's men flew out the gates at the start of the next season and won all 6 of their first opening league games, a new club record. And after emphatic victories and last-minute winners, by the halfway point Liverpool were unbeaten and found themselves 9 points clear at the top of the league. In fact, their only loss in the league came against Manchester City, as Liverpool finished the year with 97 points, making it the 3rd highest points tally ever recorded at the time. Jurgen Klopp was cursed. Manchester City had finished on 98 points, winning the league on the final day of the season by 1 point. For the 3rd year in a row, Klopp's men had fallen out of the domestic competitions earlier in the year, and the only hope for Klopp to get silverware was by producing another historic run in the Champions League. After narrowly qualifying from their group thanks to Alisson, Liverpool's red-hot league form carried over to Europe, as they beat Bayern Munich and Porto on the way to the semi-finals where they would play Lionel Messi's Barcelona. Luis Suarez came back to haunt his former team as he scored the opening goal of the tie at the Nou Camp, before Messi scored his second of the night in ridiculous fashion. Liverpool had lost 3-0 and would need a miracle to stop themselves from crashing out of the competition. They would also be without 2 of their star men, Firmino and Salah, after they both uncharacteristically picked up injuries between the 2 legs. The impossible task just became even harder. Jurgen Klopp never lets his side give up, and with Anfield spurring them on, they gave it their all in the second leg. After a quick goal from Origi in the 7th minute, the game seemed to simmer down as the teams went into half-time. Liverpool still needed at least 2 more goals on the night. Jurgen Klopp made the best substitution of his Liverpool career, as Wijnaldum came on for Robertson. Within 11 minutes, Wijnaldum had cemented himself into Liverpool folklore, as he had gotten on the end of 2 crosses to tie the game up on aggregate. Anfield was electric, spurring their team on. Then local lad Trent Alexander-Arnold stole the show, winning the game for Liverpool and completing one of the greatest comebacks in football history, setting up his 4th final as Liverpool boss against Spurs. A penalty scored by Mo Salah and a goal by Origi late on was enough to secure Klopp his first major trophy for Liverpool. The greatest night in his managerial career so far, Klopp had transformed the club to the best team in Europe in just under 4 years, as he promised in his first interview. Jurgen showed no signs of slowing down, as his team flew out the blocks again the following season, lifting the UEFA Super Cup, Club World Cup, and then by late 2020, he lifted the trophy all Liverpool fans were desperate for, the Premier League title, ending Liverpool's near 30-year wait for a league title in emphatic style. The team finished on 99 points, as they finished 18 points clear of Pep City. Klopp had the best team in England going into the following season, with Liverpool favourites to lift the league title for the 2nd year in a row. Despite beating Chelsea and Arsenal early on in the campaign, something wasn't right. The world was in global lockdown, and the Anfield crowd that Liverpool heavily relied on wasn't there for the players to fall back on. Liverpool were embarrassed 7-2 away at Aston Villa, before they suffered an injury blow that would derail their campaign. Jordan Pickford clattered into Van Dijk, causing him to tear his ACL, which saw him sidelined for the whole campaign. Long-term injuries to Joel Matip and Joe Gomez saw Liverpool lose their first-team centre-backs and ultimately plummet down the table. From being top of the league around the Christmas break, Liverpool were as low as 8th place in the league, with inexperienced duo of Nat Phillips and Reece Williams being the only defenders available for Liverpool. Miraculously, Liverpool managed to win 8 out of their last 10 games to finish 3rd and into the Champions League spots, thanks to some unlikely goal scorers. Klopp had become a master at bouncing back from setbacks after his defeats in cup finals, missing out on the league by a point. His Liverpool side have always brushed themselves down and gone again. At the start of the 2021-22 season, this was no different. With key men returning to the side and players finding their form again, Liverpool looked back to their best under Klopp and coasted through every competition. Klopp completed the domestic double by lifting the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup after beating Chelsea on penalties twice. Liverpool were within a point of Manchester City in the league and had made their 3rd Champions League final under Klopp's tenure. Klopp was on the brink of history. Liverpool looked set to complete an historic quadruple that 12 months ago seemed virtually impossible. When former player Coutinho put Aston Villa 2-0 up against Manchester City on the final day of the season, all Liverpool needed was a goal against Wolves to lift the league title, thanks to a Steven Gerrard masterclass at the Etihad. With news breaking around Anfield of the score at the Etihad, the Liverpool supporters roared their team on to go and find a winner, which they managed through Mohamed Salah, who believed he had just won Liverpool their 2nd title under Klopp. Unfortunately, less than 5 minutes prior, Manchester City had scored 3 in 5 minutes to take the lead in their match against Villa, meaning Klopp missed out on another league title by only 1 point. Nevertheless, there was a Champions League final against Real Madrid around the corner, where Klopp would be looking for revenge after 2018. Liverpool dominated the game, forcing Courtois to make some important saves to keep Madrid in the tie. Unfortunately, a lapse in concentration at the back post saw Vinny Jr. score into an empty net, as Madrid went on to lift the trophy and put an end to Liverpool's campaign. Liverpool were in a bad way. The players, fans, and staff had gone through the most emotionally draining end to the season imaginable. They had an aging squad with some players starting to lose their legs. Jurgen's first major signing, Sadio Mane, had announced he would be leaving the club at the end of the season. It looked like Liverpool's reign at the top of English football had come to an end. The following season, the cracks began to show. From almost reaching the pinnacle of football, Liverpool crashed out of the top 4 for the first time in Klopp's management. After massive defeats to Brighton, Brentford, and Wolves in January, the finger was being pointed at Jurgen Klopp and the aging midfield. During this time, Jurgen didn't look himself. He looked physically and emotionally drained as the dip in form was seriously affecting him. He vowed to make things better.
And we will be much more competitive again, 100%.
If it was anyone other than Klopp in charge of Liverpool, they would have been out the door. Jurgen had become a god to the football club and was viewed in the same way as Shankly and Paisley. There is no one the city or board could trust more than Jurgen to oversee the inevitable rebuild at the club. In the summer of 2023, Klopp completely switched things up. Club captain Jordan Henderson left the club along with Fabinho, Milner, Keita, Chamberlain, and fan favorite Bobby Firmino. The old guard that had been at the club years had been replaced by young, energetic and exciting midfielders to take Liverpool back to the top. Despite this, a lot of people were writing off Jurgen's chances of turning this around. But with a new tactical idea giving the likes of Trent a new lease of life, Liverpool began to pick up form. They began scoring last-minute winners again. The players looked confident. More importantly, Jurgen Klopp looked re-energized by the project, calling the new squad Liverpool 2.0. This season they have already reached another final against Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, and they are still in the FA Cup. They topped their group in the Europa League. They are also top of the Premier League, going neck and neck with Manchester City and Arsenal, who are two of the best teams in the world. On the 26th of January, Klopp would drop a bombshell that nobody from the outside saw coming.
I will leave the club at the end of the season.
The whole city of Liverpool stood still. It had taken everyone by surprise. The effects of the season before were still affecting Klopp. He had ran out of energy. Success this season seems a must for Liverpool now, to give Klopp the send-off he deserves. With Anfield and the players giving it their all, Klopp won't be leaving empty-handed.